Hello, this is the Welcome Series. This is free of charge, introductory technical training from Extreme Networks. It's where you meet the Extreme product family. And in this course, we're meeting ExtremeCloud IQ. We're in week 3. Can you believe it? This is already halfway. So you're halfway to that certification exam and getting that badge from Extreme Networks. Something you can put on your social network, put on your resume, and add to your achievements and certifications. Now, if you're a customer of ours, welcome. If you're a partner, a distributor, or an employee, or if you're thinking about becoming any of those, then welcome to you as well. This is open to everybody, so bring a friend, pass the word. It's open and free of charge to all. Now, we've got a lot to cram in this week, so I'm not going to hang around. I'm just going to open it up to Bethany and Claire, just see whether they've got any shout outs. So Bethany, Claire, anything to say before we get going?
Hi Rowan, how are you? Thank you for having us back.
Hi Rowan, yeah, glad to be here for episode 3.
Yes, it's so exciting, and yes, let's just jump straight in. As you guys know how to contact us, it's on the YouTube chat if you're live with us. If not, you can jump in the comments and the team will get back to you. We've had so much positive response on the chat, haven't we, Bethany? It's been so fun to see and interact with everyone.
Yeah, we love the interaction each week. It makes the lives even more exciting. So yeah, keep it up. We love chatting with you.
For sure. And then as always, if you do have any questions that you don't want to put on the chat or on YouTube, please email us at learn@extremenetworks.com. As well as just those questions, we joked about the biscuits, but if you have a more in-depth or technical question, please ask away. On episode 2, we did see a few more technical questions in the chat, and we like to see that, and that's what the team are there for, to answer those harder questions. So don't feel scared. No question is a bad question. Just keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And also on the emails, we've had a few emails with some really nice feedback. Likewise, keep giving us more emails about feedback, because we really want to just keep improving. So anything else, get in contact on the Learn email address.
Sounds good. Okay, Bethany, tell us more about the exam, and then I think we can get started.
Yeah, same from me as previously, just to let you know that we will be providing some questions that will appear in the exam at the end of this episode, so get ready to screenshot the slide. And again, we will be giving you more information on how to access the exam at the end of episode 6, so stay tuned. That's everything from us. Back to you, Rowan.
Yeah, back to you, Rowan.
That's great. Thank you, Bethany and Claire. And yeah, we love it. We love being live. And just to reiterate what they said, it's us, it's Bethany, it's Claire, it's me. We're the ones on the chat. We've got some other people from the Extreme Training team here as well who can answer your questions. So just join in. It's the best part of doing a live stream. You can interact. You can engage with everybody else. You can have a laugh while you're learning. All right. Last thing from me. We keep highlighting this great cause that we're backing called Turn on the Subtitles. And I read somewhere that you have to tell somebody something 3 times before it really sinks in. It might have been 5 times, but let's go with 3 for now. And we really believe in this cause. We're not asking much of you. We're just asking you to check this out. The team will put up the URL. Go and have a look. We think it's going to help childhood literacy. The team here, we believe in this cause. So just pass it on. Tell somebody about it. Put a message in the chat. Give us some feedback if you've had a look, and tell us what you think. May remind you about that again. All right, I can see Isaac's ready to go. So Isaac, let's get going. I'm gonna get on the chat with Bethany and Claire, and enjoy the training. Enjoy episode 3.
Thank you so much again. Thank you so much for having me back. Thank you so much for being back, for watching this. Welcome to ExtremeCloud IQ. If you haven't watched the other 2 episodes, remember we have episode 1 and 2 Last week's episode, we started on security and I got to ISO 27001, and today we're going from that point onwards. But before we do that, let's just backtrack just for a few minutes. We were starting to deal with the issue of security, and everybody wants to know about security, right? What is it? How secure is an application? You talk about ExtremeCloud IQ. How secure is it? Well, let me ask you a question. If somebody said to you 15 or 20 years ago that you would store your most precious memories, your photos and videos, on someone else's computer in the cloud somewhere, you would probably have laughed at me. But today, that's exactly what we do. We take our memories, our photos, we put them up into iCloud or into Google's cloud, Google Photos. We take our email and we put it on Gmail in the cloud somewhere, and we treat it as completely normal. We've grown used to the convenience of being able to access your data, your memories, your information, your life from anywhere where you have an internet connection. And that's incredible. And we take it for granted. If you speak to a young person today, I mean, a little younger than me, I mean, I'm young, but I mean, a really young person today, perhaps somebody who's, let's say, 15 years old, 16 years old, teenager, they think cloud always existed, right? They don't know that there was a time when cloud didn't exist. To them, it's completely normal. But for us, it has evolved. For us with white beards, it has evolved, and it's got to the point today. And the exciting thing is, where will it be tomorrow or next year or the year after that? It's really exciting. So when we talk about this issue of security, we got to understand that we already live in a world where we put most of our life in a cloud. But this is an application. As Extreme Networks, we would like people to buy this because it provides so much value, and the things that we're doing with it are pretty phenomenal. So how do we convince you to buy cloud? One of the things is to talk about security. But how do you measure security? Right? How do you measure it? And in episode 2, I spoke about the example of a car. When a manufacturer wants to release a car in Europe or in America or Asia, I guess, Japan, Korea, they can't just release a car. They have to submit it to a number of tests, right? And one of them is they take the car and they put a crash test dummy inside it and they smash it, at a certain speed against a block of concrete or whatever it is, and then they measure the data that comes off of that so that they can create a rating to be able to say this car gets a rating of X or Y or Z, whatever it is. You as a consumer want to purchase a car, and if safety of the car is important to you, you will look at that as a metric and say, wow, this car got the highest rating in North America for 2021. That's really great. I like that. That's very important to me. So the rating gives you a sense of integrity that the manufacturer has gone through a process and they have complied with each one of these particular measures, and therefore this is what their car got. If it's a poor car, fine, they might still be able to sell it, but at least you know up front that that's the rating. And we hope that there is a process of integrity, but generally speaking, there hasn't been any scandals that I can think of when it comes to human safety in vehicles. Now, that's the same thing with data, and that's what we were talking about. How do you measure how secure a platform, a cloud platform is? There must be a way to do it. And so we started talking about ISO and the standards body in America, in Geneva, Switzerland, that has standards for almost everything that you can imagine. So ISO 001. Remember, all of these security ones are 27, or information technology ones are 27, then with those three numbers that come afterwards. So the 27001 deals with, we said, 114 controls to which, to get that certification, you have to show that you are compliant with all of these, and then you have to show the evidence that it is so before you get that certification. That is important. So that is one way to show that you are compliant. Here's another way to show that you are compliant. 27017. Now, for those who don't know at all, this gentleman over here, Bill Lundgren, is the Director of Product Management for Cloud Operations and Architecture. So he's got a big title, but I love this guy. And the reason I do is because he writes blogs on the Extreme Network, but he writes blogs, a blog, and his blogs are so interesting. His posts are so interesting because not only is Bill an incredibly clever guy, smart guy, massively respected within the company and outside. He's also got a LinkedIn profile that you can follow him. But when he explains his stuff, when he writes his stuff, I've heard him on a couple of internal videos. When he explains his stuff, you understand it. Like, he's really, really good at getting you to understand something. So I really encourage you to read his stuff. But this is an extract that I took out of one of his blogs when he spoke about 27017. So 2717 is, that sounds like a date in the future. 2717 is not a certification, but it's a statement of compliance. And the reason for that is it doesn't implement it as a system, but effectively it's an extension of 27001. Okay, so remember they had 27001s and we found about 114 different controls on there. Well, with 2717, it adds a whole lot of new controls to that standard, okay, to the 27001. But those controls are mostly focused on cloud, okay, are mostly focused on cloud operations. You must understand 27001, we've had it since I think 2013 or something like that. We've had it for years and years and years. So that standard was written a long time ago, and they do update them. But this is like I don't want to say addendum. It's a whole new set of controls that gets added to the original. Okay, so additional controls, but focused on cloud operations, and they cover issues like data export, data deletion, customer-based disclosures of cloud information, like where is my data actually stored. You have to be able to tell customers if you want to comply with this. Guess what? We have 27017. It's the standard for SaaS operation. What is SaaS? Software as a service. Now, I could stop there and say, well, 2 ISO certifications, that's pretty hot, right? That's like, who else has got it? Well, guess what? That's not where we stop. We go further than that. We go to the 27701. So we've had 27001, we've had 2717, and now we have 27701. There's a 7 involved in all of those, right? 27701. And this is the big one, right? This is a new standard that we have acquired, and we have the certification on this. So it is a complete ISO system implementing what's now known as PIMS, Privacy Information Management System. This deals specifically with issues around data privacy. So remember how I mentioned GDPR earlier, and I think we're going to mention it a little bit later. GDPR, CCPA, anything to do with data protection issues, this is it. If you are concerned with that, if one of the reasons that you might not have moved to cloud yet, or to ExtremeCloud IQ, or cloud in general, is data privacy, right? The fact that we have this certification on ExtremeCloud IQ should rule out a reason for you not to go to ExtremeCloud IQ in the cloud, right? This certification says we got our ducks in a row. We got this stuff all lined up. So if you want to know more about this, and I recommend that you really read more because this is really fantastic, then go to this. Here's his blog. There's some, there's the URL down the bottom there, and you can get information about the certifications. You can get information about the standards, what they mean, etc., etc. From there, you can actually click and you can get to the actual certificates. We actually publish our certificates online. You can go and take a look at them. So there's the URLs for both. Right. So this thing called GDPR, I think many people watching this, if you're based in Europe, you will be very familiar with this. This has been enforced already for a number of years here in Europe, and GDPR, right? So ExtremeCloud IQ is already equipped with the features that enable customers to address the requirements of GDPR. We also have login and audit features. Let me tell you a little bit more about GDPR. It's a big mouthful. If you want to read this, you can. There's a lot of stuff over here. The purpose of this Welcome to series is really not to go into absolutely massive detail as to this, but it came into effect in 2018, sometime in 2018. So it's been going for about 3 years. And I think in general, it's a good thing, right? That as a European citizen, well, British citizen now, but for those living in Europe, as a European citizen, your data doesn't just, they can't just do anything with your data. Your data has got to be, certainly from a point of view of where is it located, it's got to be within Europe. I think that that's a pretty good thing. And I know that there are various countries that are looking and adopting GDPR and making slight changes. Yes, even in America itself. It's also like the standards, like the ISO standards, it's also a framework, right? And it really is designed to be able to protect the data from any identifiable data from of a EU citizen within Europe. So one very important phrase that can sum up GDPR for you, okay, not just one, but an important one, is you have to show, as a company, as Extreme Networks, we have to show and be able to demonstrate, in case of data loss or data theft, that we have taken every necessary precaution to prevent it, okay? And that is very important. You have to show that you've done everything possible, that you implemented, that you did all these things, and it still happened. Of course, these things can still happen. But to be GDPR compliant, you have to do this. If not, you could end up with a really crippling fine. Right. What is Extreme doing and why are we doing? What are we doing regarding GDPR? Well, it is our responsibility to help customers, our European customers, to secure their stored data. Remember, RTC's data is stored within Europe and it's never allowed to move outside of Europe, and it has to be encrypted. Remember, GDPR doesn't mandate what type of encryption or mandate encryption, but it does list it as a best practice. Okay, so it doesn't mandate you have to. I think I said earlier that you have to use it. It mandates it as a best practice. the data processing is done on behalf of the data controller customer, and therefore makes us part of the GDPR process. So we can't shake our responsibilities from here. We have to be part of that whole process. Now, ExtremeCloud IQ has built features, Extreme Networks has built features into ExtremeCloud IQ to help customers like yourself, if you're interested or thinking of getting on, or if you've just come in and welcome to the family with your GDPR compliance. Going forward, this will apply to the public cloud, private cloud, and local cloud. So this is really important, right? This is very important because public cloud is what we've been talking up until now. Public cloud running on AWS, Azure, or Google. But some customers have their private cloud as well. And you can get ExtremeCloud IQ running on your own private cloud in perhaps your own data center or one of the data centers, such as, at Amazon or whatever. You could have a private cloud running there, or your own local cloud as well. These ISO standards, these security, these GDPR compliance will apply to any one of those. So if that has been holding you back from going to cloud, it's not an issue anymore. It's there, it's available. So we need to provide the technology and the tools to help you to search, to download and delete data, user data, by MAC address, by client MAC address. So give us a MAC address and we can go in and delete the data associated. We need to provide you with tools to be able to search, download and delete any admin data by the name of an admin. So for example, you might have an admin who worked for you and created and did a whole lot of stuff for you, and there's trails and audit logs and everything that they did that, and they might leave your company. You might fire them, whatever, they might just leave. You have to be able to, under GDPR, we have to provide you with the tools to help you to search, find that admin and everything, and delete that data as well. Also, part of our responsibility is we have to provide you the tools for you to track and report user or admin data that was downloaded or deleted, when and by whom. So that is also very important. And obtain explicit consent for data collection on captive web portals. So if you are using ExtremeCloud IQ, and you're using wireless access points and you create captive web portals, we have to be able we have to get explicit consent from you for data collection on captive web portal, or for the data that you capture on these particular web portals. Also, we have to make sure that we do not collect data from passerby wireless clients, just sniffing wireless. We have to we can't do that. The data centers, GDC, and the regional data centers, the RDCs that we've spoken about in episode 1, are located inside the EU. That means customers inside the EU will have an ExtremeCloud IQ instance located within Europe. This map I'm going to show you now kind of shows you the RDC, a more updated one, right? You see the AWS global infrastructure over here as well, and you can see where the extreme data centers are located. This map is of course now old and needs to be updated. Now we get to the point of talking about shared responsibility. This is something that's really important, because security is a shared responsibility. It's shared between 3 parties. It's shared between the cloud providers, Azure, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. It's shared with them. It's shared with us as Extreme Networks. We have to do everything on our side. And ultimately, it's also shared with you as a customer. If you're a customer, you also have a responsibility. in this end-to-end chain of trust, if you want to call it that. Amazon does its part, right? And I'm going to use Amazon. I'm not going to talk about the others because they pretty much have to have the same things for them to operate on the level that they operate and get government contracts, etc., etc. They have to have those standards. But look at this type of infrastructure certification that they need to have. SOC 1, SSAE 16, ISAE 3402, SOC 2, SOC 3, FISMA, PCI DSS level 1, ISO 9001. I mean, it goes on and on and on. That is what they need to have. What about industry-specific certification? Well, things like in the US, the Criminal Justice Information Service, they have special requirements. Cloud Security Alliance, they have special requirements. Health and Portability, Insurance Portability Act, they have to have all of these. So you can see that these big guys that run this cloud infrastructure, their compliance levels are absolutely huge. So when we talk about shared responsibility, they carry a lot of the shared responsibility. Guard duty is a service provided by AWS, runs 24/7, 365 days a year, and it's we enable guard duty, continually analyze. Remember I spoke about this continual threat detection and things like that. This is one of those services that we sign up for to help us to detect all of these threats. So continue and analyze, intelligently detect the threats, and then of course take action to mitigate those threats 24/7, 365. Now, what about customers' responsibility? We've spoken about ours, about our ISO certification and our processes and vetting of staff and all of those things. But what about a customer? Well, there's certain things that you as a customer would need to take too, that shared responsibility, right? You wouldn't want to give everybody in your IT organization, admin passwords to absolutely everything. You wouldn't want to do that. Doesn't make any sense. You want to limit it down to the smallest pool of people possible, not just one, right? If one person, disappears tomorrow, what then? So you want to have a few, not 15 or 20 if your organization has only got 30 people in it, right? Limit that. Make sure that the passwords are not 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure that they implement decent, correct, good passwords that are not easy guessable, by somebody attempting to try and hack those passwords. Change the passwords regularly. These are things that they might seem simplistic, but you would be surprised at how many hacks that are done around the world are done because people use simple passwords. It's a message that's broadcast over and over and over again. Customer responsibility, shared responsibility. So I want to now go over a part that I found really interesting when I heard one of our internal guys talk about it, and that is frequently asked questions that come from the field regarding security and regarding ExtremeCloud IQ security. The first one is, does the US Cloud Act give the United States government the right to request data from EU customers because AWS is an American company, because Amazon Web Services is an American company? It's a great question, right? It's a great question. If AWS is an American company, does that give them the right, the US Cloud Act, to do that? Here's the answer. The answer is no, it does not, because local law at all times supersedes foreign laws. AWS is by no means obligated, and it's better to read this so that we get the legalese right, is by no means obligated to give information to anyone unless signed by a judge and where confirmation to local law is guaranteed. So to say never, never, never would probably not be accurate. But you would have to have very serious mitigating circumstances for that, and it has to conform to local law.
Could you say that again? Sorry.
It has to conform to local law. So you can't just walk in and say, well, just give. No, it doesn't actually work like that. The data that Extreme Networks collects is network data, statistical data. We don't have access to the data on the customer's network. So we can't read your email or stuff. That's got nothing. We are looking at data points, right? Metrics. That's what we are looking at. Here's another question. Does data inside a specific regional data center stay there, or is it possible that data leaves the regional data center? Well, another good question. The customer network data generated inside that RDC stays in that RDC. So take the example of Germany. The data that's generated by users in Germany stays in that data center. It doesn't leave that data center. In this case, it stays in Frankfurt. Another question. Is ExtremeCloud IQ regularly audited, both internal as well as by an independent third party? Answer is absolutely yes. Extreme Networks DevOps platforms performs regular internal audits to ensure the data security. AWS audits Extreme on the use of the infrastructure and monitors malicious use as well. When we have ISO certification, you can't self-sign your ISO certification. You have to have independent third parties who actually come on to do these security controls, 134 of them. So I hope that this module, even though long and dry and a lot of text and a lot of reading, I hope that has settled and given you a better understanding of what it is that ExtremeCloud IQ offers in terms of security, because it is an issue. It's a big issue. People want to know. And the takeaways for me, the thing for me, the way that I understand it is, think about the cars, think about those crash tests, think about that analogy. For a car to get a rating, it has to go through a standardized set of tests. Otherwise, you just don't know if, a little bumper bashing, is going to kill you. You just don't know. The same thing applies to security. So security made up of three components. The data centers, the big guys, Extreme Networks, for which we use ISO, and then you as a customer, the stuff that you need to implement as well. Okay, let's move on to deployment. We're going to call it deployment, discovery, and provisioning, but essentially we're talking about deployment over here. So let me bring this up and off we go. All right, again, it kind of needs your focus to understand how you deploy this technology. This is going to be the first time in this welcome series, where you're going to see, I think, the interface, the latest interface. So we'll take you through the process, just to let you know that in the final module that we're going to be doing, episode 6, we're going to show you some videos of actually how you do these things. They how-to videos, so you will get a view of what it actually looks like. Now, if you don't know, if you haven't had any experience with ExtremeCloud IQ, then you need to be aware that this is not an application like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, in the sense that it runs on your local machine. This technology runs inside a browser. And that means that you can access it from anywhere in the world, which is one of the great benefits of cloud, and on basically any device, as long as it's got a browser. So if you have if you have a tablet, or you have a large screen TV, or you have 3 or 4 monitors, doesn't matter. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can access your ExtremeCloud IQ account. The other thing as well that we have is, we also have an app that you can actually download on the Google Play Store, or on the iOS App Store, and that once you've set up your account, you can then use that app on your iPhone or Android phone, connect to it with your credentials, and you on ExtremeCloud IQ. Now, you don't have the full range of functionality that you have from a browser-driven interface, but there's an enormous amount of stuff that you can do from the actual device itself, like scanning a QR code or a barcode, for example, and onboarding a device into ExtremeCloud IQ. So let's jump in to this section over here. The process of deploying infrastructure, and that could be a switch, it could be an access point, is basically a four-step procedure. And it starts in reality with you plugging in a Ethernet cable into an access point. I have an access point here on my desk, and I think I can pull this and show you. Can I? Can you see something like that? Maybe. Oh, there we go. It should be looking something like that. But basically, it's an access point, and it has an Ethernet cable that's plugged into that. So that is your first step. You unbox it, you plug in, and it's going to get power. Now, when we say plug in, if you're talking about an access point, then you generally have 2 types of access points when it comes to power. You have some that have a power brick on them, where all you need to do is just no, not the power brick, where they've got power on them, so you just take a transformer, just plug it in, and away it goes. Or the most common one when it comes to access points, and I'm talking specifically about enterprise access points, because for home access points it's a little bit different, but on enterprise it's what we call power over Ethernet. If you haven't heard the term, PoE is what it is, power over Ethernet, and that means that the cable, that Ethernet cable that you plug into that access point, provides the power to it. What that means is your network switch has got to be enabled to deliver power over Ethernet. If you just buy a standard switch from your local retailer, it might not have power over Ethernet. It might not deliver the capability of power over Ethernet. So you need to make sure. But in this case, because we're talking about enterprise solutions, we're going to assume that you're using the right switch. Ethernet cable, plug it in, powers up that device straight away. The next step over here, because we had 4 steps, the second step is a discovery process. Now, when you take a mobile phone and you switch it on for the very first time, you unbox it, you power it on, essentially it cannot talk to anything, right? Because it has no idea of wireless networks around it, or GSM. It doesn't know how to connect to your mobile provider. So you take your SIM card from your provider and you put it into your phone, and a couple of minutes later, boom, it comes up and you connect it to this network or that network, whatever network it is that you've signed up with, and you instantly get an internet connection because of that mobile device. Of course, if you have a wireless network, you can then type in the credentials for that wireless network and your phone connects. So in essence, it requires you to do some configuration, or just put in a SIM card into that device and it connects to the internet, and away it goes. That device is able to work. With ExtremeCloud IQ, if you buy an Extreme access point, for example, it already knows. It doesn't have a SIM card, but it already knows because it's running some computer code. So it already knows where it needs to connect to. So it already has been told when somebody powers you, energizes you with that Ethernet cable, then the next step for you is to connect to this IP address, to this location. It looks for an internet connection. If it's got it, off it goes, and it goes to do its job, the discovery process. The third step is the provisioning process. So if you're an administrator, and this is one of the great benefits of having a cloud solution, is you can configure. So imagine that you own a business and you have, say, 10 different locations. A franchise business, you have 10 different locations, or maybe you own all of those locations, those businesses, and you want to put access point and wireless internet access in. Let's imagine, let's call it a restaurant, and you want to be able for your staff and your waiters to have mobile access or wireless access so that they can send the orders directly to the kitchen, but you also want to provide internet access for your guests. You want to do something like that, right? So you would, as an administrator, you would purchase the APs, you'd register them on ExtremeCloud IQ, and then you can provision them. You can do all the configuration that's going to apply to that access point. And by configuration, I mean profiles. And what that actually means is, let's say you have some rules and you want to say, okay, my branches open at 7 o'clock in the morning and they close at 9 o'clock at night, and the kitchen closes at 9, and at 10 o'clock we shut down the lights. So what we want to do is at 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the evening, we want to completely cut out all guest internet access. That's it. No one can have internet access. That wireless network disappears, right? So that would be part of a profile. That's not standard configuration. That's something that you might decide to implement. And so you can create a policy, and then you can push the policy out to all those devices that you're going to install at those branches. And so you can provision them, and then all you need to do is just take the box and ship it out to your branch. You don't have to send IT people. You don't have to send expensive people or get outside contractors to come and configure and set up, because you've already done all the provisioning. All you need to do is to say to the guy at the branch, when you get this, just put it in the office, plug the Ethernet cable. You've already got a switch. Just take the Ethernet cable that comes in the box, plug it to the switch, to the access point, and don't worry about the rest. And when that device connects, it discovers ExtremeCloud IQ. It says, oh, okay, I've been told I need to pull down this policy. Everything is running, cool, and it does everything. So it means that the distribution of massive amounts of access points and switches becomes very, very easy, light, and not expensive at all. And of course, once that's done, everybody's happy. You've got all the settings that you've already pre-provisioned up and running. The local people don't have to do anything. 4 steps, really, really easy. So in that process that I've just kind of discussed with you and shared with you, there's 3 major players or components to all of this. There's obviously the devices, the access points, the switches, that are going to be part of this Extreme iCloud or connect to ExtremeCloud IQ. Your devices. And that could be a mixed bag of devices, right? It could be access points, switches, both, whatever it is. Then you're going to have your what we call the redirector. Think of this as a ET phone home, right? This is the phone number, IP address that's built into these devices. They know, when I get plugged in, I know what I need to do. I know where I need to go connect. I know what phone number I need to dial. So that's what we call the redirector. The redirector at cloud.aerohive.com. That's the number that they're going to be dialing. It's an IP address like you see on the screen. The next component is actually ExtremeCloud IQ. So you take your access points, your IT admin, when he bought the access points, he would have received an email from Extreme Networks with serial numbers. Okay, it could be 1 or it could be 10 or 20 or 50 serial numbers, whatever it might be. So he's going to be registering these numbers, entering them into your account in ExtremeCloud IQ, and then what will happen is those devices will connect to the redirector. The redirector takes that information and puts it into ExtremeCloud IQ, the registration numbers and all of that data, says, great, these devices are genuine, they haven't been used before, they knew, hey, I'm going to register them, they are now authorized to talk to ExtremeCloud IQ. So that's the high level view. Now let's look a little bit more at the redirector that we need to cover. So the redirector, the devices connect to this redirector, which you see over here in step 1. They connect to the redirector, and the redirector is then going to assign them to a CAPWAP master. Now, what is CAPWAP? CAPWAP is a protocol for access points, not just Extreme access points, but any access point to talk to each other. It's kind of think of it as the language that access points talk when they talk to each other and when they talk to infrastructure, if that kind of makes sense. So at this point, when you created an account, the system asked you, where are you located? And this goes back to the module that we covered, I think it was in episode 2, where we spoke about security, and we spoke about things like GDPR and you being in Europe. So when you signed up your account and it figured out, you said to me, you told me that you're in France and France is Europe. Okay, so I will now send you to a CAPWAP master in the Cloud Regional Data Center. Remember the RDC? So this is where that CAPWAP master is going to be, in that RDC. The redirector is going to say, okay, you're in France, so I'm going to send you to the CAPWAP master for that particular region, for the European region, for example. And once it does that, XIQ now knows, okay, so I've now got a new phone number that I need to dial, a new IP address that I need to go to, and it now calls this the primary CAPWAP server, okay? It calls this master CAPWAP server. And the CAPWAP server is then going to assign this device, this Extreme Cloud IQ device, the access point or the switch, to a designated, so it's going to make a decision. So it's the CAPWAP master. It takes all the requests to it, and then it designates. It says, okay, you're in France. Well, I'm going to send you to this particular CAPWAP server that I have running, and it sends you there as well as to the file servers in that region. So that is the process. That's how, when you create an account, you don't get sent to the wrong regional data center. You get sent to the correct regional data center. And that's for devices that are talking up into the cloud. But that's not the only system that we have, because in these episodes, at some points, I have mentioned that we have public cloud, which is the one with those 3 big players, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. But I also said that some companies would have private cloud. So they would have their infrastructure in one of those big data centers or their own data center, or they might even have local, on-prem. They might have a solution where they say, no, we are not, for any regulation or whatever, we are not allowed to have cloud applications. Well, ExtremeCloud IQ can provide you a local application that you would use. And so in this case, what would happen, there would be a static configuration using CLI, command line interface, and there would be a discovery, a dynamic IP discovery process. Option 43 of DHCP, there'll be a DNS query, there could be an L2 layer 2 broadcast, which can be disabled if you don't want to use that, and there could be a redirector as well. So let's take a look at what that actually could look like. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So we have the on-prem server, and what we're going to do, your devices are going to say, when they come up, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to identify myself as an Aerohive device. That might be changed, but it's irrelevant. It's just code. And I'm going to ask for, or send you option 60, the DHCP server. By the way, DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, that's the thing that actually gives you an address. Think about it like this. When you power on a new mobile phone and you put in your SIM card is going to request a number, right? It has an EMEA number, a special serial number on that SIM card. When you put it in for the first time, it goes to the operator and it says, hey, I am this registered SIM card. Can you send me my number? And the operator says, yes, here is the number that matches that card. There you go. So that's kind of what DHCP is. It gives you an IP address. So the DHCP server responds with option 43 and gives you a sub option 226, which is the IP address of this appliance, and it gives you the FQDN. If you don't know what that means, it means a fully qualified domain name. That is like your real address, okay? The name, the full name. So you could say, I live in Cambridge. But if you translated that into fully qualified domain name, you'd have to say, I live in this house number 12, on this street, on this suburb, in Cambridge, Cambridgeshire, United Kingdom, Europe. Earth, right? That would be a fully qualified domain name. So it sends that information back, and now you have the name. Now you have the name of what you're looking for, but you can't dial someone unless you have their phone number. So a name needs to have a number. A fully qualified domain name needs to have an address, an IP address for you to connect to it, because computers connect using IP addresses. So there we go. It now says, I need the IP address, please. And it does that using a DNS lookup, and it asks for that DNS address, and the DNS server responds and says, there's the IP address of that guy over there. Okay. So this is the process that it needs so that it knows the IP address so that it can talk to this device. If it wasn't on-prem, it knows, go up to the cloud and go and get the information there. But in a case like this, it's not supposed to be talking to the cloud, so it's going to talk to the local machine that does the job of ExtremeCloud IQ. Then CapWAP, that special protocol for wireless access points, does a broadcast. Oops, let me just go there. Does a broadcast. It gets a response of the ExtremeCloud IQ appliance on the local network, on your local network. There's a CapWAP discovery, and it contacts the redirector, and it sends it to the virtual appliance in your data center at your premises. So ExtremeCloud IQ then has to register those devices, comes back, does a redirect. It then sends those redirects. Once it checks those serial numbers and everything are okay, it says, okay, from now on, you're going to be talking to that guy, and it connects to your domain, that fully qualified domain name. And that's how the process works for devices that connect directly up to the cloud or devices that connect on your local network. So they know how to connect ultimately to the internet or to your local machine, local server, so that they can become active and start serving internet access to everybody on your network. If you set up something like this, then and you have an IT team, of course, they will get all the documentation that they need. But there's a couple of ports that will be need to be open on your firewall for this process to be able to be enabled, right? You're going to have to enable CAPWAP for the CAPWAP protocol, and that's on port 12222. UDP, and TCP port 80, which is internet traffic, and then for RADSEC port 2083. For updates, for firmware updates, etc., it's going to be port 443, which you know as HTTPS. Everybody knows that as HTTPS. If you have issues connecting these devices, you plug them in and somehow they can't connect, check your firewalls that they allow these ports, because if they don't allow those ports out, then you're never going to be able to connect to ExtremeCloud IQ in the cloud. What's the process of creating devices? Well, I'm going to show you. So this, now you're looking at the interface. If we were logging, you're looking at the GUI now on screen. Although these are static, you will then, in another module see a lot more of this. But I'm going to take you through the procedure. If you've created an account, then this is kind of what you're going to be seeing on the screen. You're going to be seeing an option to create or to add new devices. This is where you would enter the serial numbers. So you could have advanced onboarding or just the quick and dirty way to do it. But in any process, you're going to be choosing, the first part is between real or simulated devices. Now you would say, well, okay, I bought real devices, so obviously you'll choose real. Simulated is if you just want to test with a device, just want to see how it operates. You're waiting for your devices to arrive, for example, they haven't arrived yet, and you just want to play around with the account. Well, you could say simulated. I'm simulating the AP 4000. That's the one that I've ordered. It's on back order. It'll only arrive in a month or whatever it is, but let me simulate what it will look like. Let me try and set it up already just to understand more. Then you would use the simulated one. Then you're going to choose between the AeroHive Extreme or other supported devices. When AeroHive was still a company and still around, we used to do a lot of Dell stuff for Dell as well. So that's why you have the ability for the drop down to select if you're going to use AeroHive or Dell, or who knows what's coming next, right? AeroHive Extreme or Dell, or perhaps something new coming down the road. Then we're going to be choosing how you're going to enter those serial numbers that we spoke about. So if it's one access point, you can just type it in. If it's many, you can use copy and paste that information in, or you can use a CSV upload. All right. For those of you who know, it's just comma. Actually, CSV. I don't remember what CSV is, but it's a file, a comma delimited file that if you have 2,000 devices, that's what you're going to be able to use. We'll send you a file and you just import that data in. Here we go. If you have multiple serial numbers, they must be separated by a comma. If you have a policy, so if you've already created a policy, remember when I said if you set up a policy, if you've already created a policy, then you would choose the policy from there, and then you would add the devices to save the serial numbers to your account. I mean, it doesn't get much easier than that, right? That's really, really easy. The most common way is to add serial numbers using the CSV file option. Very easy. I haven't used CSV before myself, but I have a network here at home. I have about 4 or 5 access points. I probably cover the whole village with wireless access just from my house alone. You could get errors. I've seen some of these errors. They could happen. Unlikely if you buy new equipment, unlikely. But in my case, when I started with Extreme, some people gave me some people gave me access points which they had used before, and they had registered those serial numbers to their accounts, and that was a problem because when I tried to register, it says, oh, hang on, there's a problem over here. So the device had already been onboarded, and then I just have to open a ticket with the Extreme guys, say, hey guys, this is what happened, and they'll say no problem. They'll remove it from that account and add it into my account. So there are reasons why this sometimes happens, but very unlikely if you buy new out-of-the-box equipment. And now devices are added into the database. So here we go. You can see some devices over here. You can see some information over there, MAC addresses, the type of device that it is, the type of operating system. There you go. Green means, hey, I'm happy, I'm connected with the CapWare protocol. That's a simulated device, and we'll cover what that means in a later episode. So I think that should be quite easy for you. The deployment part, how do these devices, once I buy them, how do they get connected to the cloud? And it's as easy as that. It's like magic. You plug it in, set it up, and away it goes. And you're now managing a network of 1 access point or 2,000 access points from one single pane of glass. That is power. Thank you for watching. We will see you. I will see you next week on the episode number 4. Thank you. See you then. Cheers. Bye-bye.